Woo! Thanks everyone for joining. We're gonna wait a little bit for more people to log on, but we want to thank you all for joining us and supporting her vagabond roots. As you all know, this is the first time we're doing 20 questions ever. It's not gonna be the last time, but we are excited and we're gonna wait for more folks to join us. Ya miro todos los comentarios. Saludos a todos, everyone who's joining in. We are happy to have you all here. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We are going to get started a little bit just so that we can get the ball rolling and also invite our special guest for the night. As you all know, my name is Aaron Serrano. I am here in Berkeley, California. Very happy to be hosting this 20 minutes or 20 questions with Caro, Dr. Silva. And so just so that you all know, this is brought to you by Her Vagabond Roots Incorporated. We are a nonprofit organization that is really here to empower women of color who are in their pursuits of like professional goals while also like, you know, trying to achieve their academic journey. And so I happen to be an ally of women of color, and also like I'm very happy to be supporting family and friends who have been impacted by this nonprofit. But yeah, so we will move on for you all to really understand what we're going to do tonight. Tonight is really an opportunity for us to get to know a little bit of some resources for the undocumented community. I happen to know someone who has been working in DC for some time now, who you all will be meeting in a little bit. But she is a congressional fellow, and I will let her introduce herself as well, but she has been working on public policy for the undocumented community. I will also plug in that she is one of our former Vagas, class of 2019, so she just recently completed her doctorate, and so she can talk a little bit about that as well, but I'm going to ask her to join us so that you all can meet her as well. I'm loving all the comments. Please continue to comment and ask questions if you all have any questions. Here we go. Also, it's the first time that I use this thing, so of course I get it wrong. Here we go. I'm going to be inviting Carolina Silva. Let's see if she can accept.
Hi.
Hey, Carol.
Hi, Edwin. Good to see you.
You look great. Long time no see. Where are you right now?
So currently I'm staying in Virginia, but I currently live in DC.
Okay. Well, thank you for making time to join us today. I was sharing with everyone earlier that 20 minutes or 20 questions, I keep getting it wrong. 20 questions is really an opportunity for us to just go back and forth and talk about a certain topic. Today's topic is really about resources for the undocumented community, and you know, you're the best person that I knew that could talk a little bit about this, and so thank you for that. I do want to encourage everyone who's watching. I know we have more people tuning in, but we want to encourage you all to ask any questions that you may have. We also want to acknowledge that this interview and our conversation will mainly be in English, and we have a lot of viewers who are, you know, Spanish speaking, so that's a little plug-in. Queremos por lo menos decirles que esta entrevista va a ser en inglés, pero después de que se acabe la entrevista podemos hacer tiempo para contestar cualquier pregunta en español. También vamos a poner todos estos recursos en nuestra página de web para que ustedes se informen un poco más o compartan con las amigas o amigos que quieran. También lo que estamos diciendo es queremos ver preguntas, queremos ver de qué quieren hablar, de qué quieren que conteste Carolina. So si nos preguntan algo en español, vamos a contestar en español. So es como nuestra, how do you say challenge? Like nuestra, you know, like denos algo para platicar en español. So yeah, vamos a empezar. Tenemos about 30 to 45 minutes with Carol. And so we want to acknowledge that, you know, she's here with us. So our first question, and if someone wants to time and like keep track of all the questions that we're asking because we are counting them, we're committed to 20 questions only. First one being, how are you today, Caro?
I'm doing well. I think it's been a productive day work-wise, and I went on a run, so it's it was a pretty good day on my end.
You got some fitness. I know we were talking earlier and you said you had webinars too.
hmm Yes,
Ooh.
webinars, both on issues of higher education and Latinos in particular, and then one on the educational divide.
Oh, I like that. I'll have to ask you about that later. All right, so second question is tell us about yourself. We want to make sure that folks know who they're talking to today or who they're learning from.
Awesome. So my name is Carolina Silva, and I've been in the United States since I was 9 years old. I immigrated from Lima, Peru, and my family moved to Miami first, and then since then we've moved to the West Coast. So my family is currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. My parents are business owners, as a lot of immigrants are, and I actually grew up being undocumented and also went to college prior to DACA, so happy to talk about that as well. And then was able to adjust status, and then recently became a citizen before moving to Washington D.C. And now I am a congressional fellow with the U.S. House of Representatives, and I work on education.
Wow. Well, congrats. I feel like you said so many things that I want to be like, what? Pause. Those are some great accomplishments. And yeah, again, folks, we talk about like the, representation of women of color in higher education. And again, Caro being one. Not that many women of color actually end up getting their doctorate in general. And so we want to like just remind you all that like Caro is, again, one of those people that we look up to and admire, and we continue to praise for her work. And we're seeing some Dr. Silva, all the congratulations.
Hey, students. Hey, Christine.
I love it. We have some great people on today. Thank you all for joining. So, all right, the question that we want to know is like, what led you to want to work with undocumented populations and students as well?
Yeah, so when I graduated myself as a high school student, this was a bit ago, so I found myself having to explain to my teachers and people at colleges what being undocumented meant. And that in itself was a huge struggle, but even bigger struggle was feeling alone in the process, feeling like I had to encounter all those closed doors by myself. So after having that my own experience transitioning to college, I wanted to make sure that no other student had to go through that journey alone. So I kind of took it upon myself to get really involved. So by the time I was 17, I started becoming really active in immigrants' rights, specifically when it came to higher education. And I've been doing that work ever since. I also did a lot of work with refugees because Salt Lake is a refugee resettlement zone. So I've now been doing that work for over 10 years.
Wow.
Very personal.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you, like, how long have you been working with this community? So thanks for sharing. 10 years. And where did you start? Like, where did this spark originally?
So originally, it was I would say it started at home. My family really taught me that as the older sister in my family, I had the responsibility to build that pathway for my siblings, but also if I had knowledge, I was responsible to share it with others. So I was helping, my mechanic's daughter, and I was helping other people make sure they were able to get in-state tuition, because at the time, even though Utah offered in-state tuition to undocumented students, I wasn't eligible because I had just moved there in my junior year. So I was able to basically share what I had navigated myself with other students. And yeah, that happened, I would say, like on my own home, and then on my university campus, and then across Salt Lake, where I was able to work with a lot of different schools. So I created a mentoring program at a local high school, and then also worked with a Title I elementary school to make sure we had tutoring, and then eventually started like a pipeline. So we have parents coming onto campus as well to be able to talk about these issues from early on, because that's what we need to do, is involve entire families, not just students.
Yeah, and I love that because you're reminding me of the importance of just getting involved and finding like the thing that you're passionate about. Because oftentimes, like when we're doing this for so long, sometimes you don't even see the point. But I think you're someone who can testify that like, no, that work pays off. And even just kind of seeing like the need more than ever now, right? Which is again one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about like everything going on today. With COVID-19 and just other things that are going on before COVID, like the need for that like work that you were involved with from the beginning. Thank you again. All right, so, all right, next one we want to ask is, how would you describe the climate for undocumented people currently?
So the climate currently has been really difficult in a lot of ways, and I can speak to it as someone who's been undocumented under the Trump administration because I already had residency. But what I can say as an immigrant, as someone who's a mentor, who has a lot of loved ones who are undocumented, who's still part of the community, is that it feels like you have to, I don't know, it feels like a lot of times you have to hold your breath and just endure what is coming at you, whether it's at the federal level, whether it's at the state level. Since Trump took office, there's been some executive orders. There's been all kinds of proposals that impact the daily lives and the well-being of immigrants, specifically undocumented immigrants, but all kinds of immigrants. So it just feels like being under constant attack, and that's been really hard, not just emotionally, but also financially, in terms of even individuals couldn't see folks, right? Being able to travel, people who had access to certain things, being able to lose that, and processes becoming much, much more exclusive. Things like asylum, citizenship being something that is now something that they're looking at being able to like take away and look into fraud. Just kind of things that before were pretty sure for individuals with certain statuses are no longer that case. And of course, for undocumented people being the most vulnerable, it's just been a constant thread of threats. But what I've been really inspired by is just the resilience of our immigrants who come together and build resources where there are none, because we know that this administration is not going to be better about this.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, valuing the resiliency, like none like us, but I want to think about your naming, like just in general, always being in the sphere of like in the state of fear. And that's not even on top of all the other issues and burdens that people hold in terms of like other identities that they hold, right? Like socioeconomic statuses, race, right? Like gender, so many other layers that really go into that. And so thank you, like, for reminding us about the reality of that, because I think for many of us, we probably know someone who's undocumented, and if this is the constant fear that they're living in, I think it helps to really just do those check-ins or just inform yourself a little bit more about like, hey, how can I, share this resource with you as well, Thanks, folks. We see questions. We have time for questions as well. So we're going to get through a couple more, and then we'll make time for the first question. Cool? All right. So the reason I reached out to you was because, again, we don't have a lot of time, or some of us have time with this whole COVID-19 thing. And me and Wendy, who's the founder of Her Vagabond Roots, we were just thinking about like, what can we be doing to really like raise awareness about some issues that are really prevalent right now. And I thought of you because, again, of the work that you're doing, and I've said this again, but really, again, just thinking about like, how could we learn more about some of the financial resources that are available for the undocumented community, because we always know that like money is tight everywhere, right? Like no matter where you are, I think that's always something that like folks will always talk about. And so we wanted to talk about like, hey, how can we be sharing more like around financial resources? And then we're going to broaden it as well so that we're not just talking about financial resources. So can you tell us some of the options that you know in terms of like at a federal level?
Oh no.
Did it freeze? Folks, there may be.
Yeah, I can see you, but
I can hear you. It's freezing a little bit. You look very happy. Perfect. Okay. I think it's catching up to speed a little bit now. Oh, okay. There we go. Your sound might be a little bit off. No, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if other folks are also. Here, maybe we can try asking you to rejoin, if that's cool. I'm gonna exit and then ask you to rejoin. Just to let you all know, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties, but